Okay, let's make another animation. Now, I have this Egbert kitchen file that I believe was made by Meatman, and I want to animate John like running into the room and slamming the door behind him. So I'm gonna grab the John file PSD that I have of all the different torsos and legs, and this is also another really important thing to set up. You don't want to have to redraw minute body parts every time you want to do a cool pose. So having a lot of these at the ready is really, really valuable. I believe this specific assembly was made by Jade on the MSPFA Discord, so thank you. So I'm just going to take this entire group and paste it over here. Immediately, you can tell that it's at the top of the layer list, so it's in front of everything. Just to recognize it even better as a collapsed group, I'm going to right click it and make it blue, just so it's nice and easy to keep track of, or make it any color you want. So I have John here, but I'll always need John flipped. So we talked earlier about destructive editing, such as scaling and rotating. If I were to rotate John or downscale him, it would, once I'm done and I hit enter, all these frames get reinterpolated. And you can tell there's just elements artifacting that's done because of rotating a raster image. It's a grid of pixels and it needed to be reinterpolated using math in order to make this effect that I wanted. And this is destructive. This is how all my layers look. I don't want that. So generally, I want to avoid doing that to my main layer copy and always have a backup. If you happen to do this kind of transformation and then save over it, you have probably lost access to all of your drawings and all of your layers. You don't want that. So have a backup of your characters. But for simple things, and if you think about the math, it makes sense. You can just flip horizontally. And a horizontal flip or 90-degree rotation, or a vertical flip for that matter, is safe. Nothing needs to be reinterpreted, an integer amount of movement for any given pixel. So that you don't really need to worry about. So I can horizontally flip without worrying about making copies, but if you prefer, another good option is copy the character, horizontal flip, and just have two of them to work with, EB and EB copy. Both are really good approaches. I wouldn't worry. So for now, all I need is an EB looking to the left. Now I want to think about layer ordering. Right now, John is at the top of the stack in front of everything. I don't really want that. I just need them in front of the door. So I'm going to move them all the way down here. And really, if you think about it, I really want them coming from the outside, running, and then slamming the door, like holding it behind them. So I don't only need John in front of the door, but also behind it. So I can't reorder the animations on the fly. I can make a frame like this, copy it, and copy it. That doesn't work because the frame order is for the entire canvas and all of its frames. You can switch layers as part of the animation process. So what I want to do is, instead of copying John, because that's a big complicated folder of layers, I'm going to copy the door and move one copy of it in front. So, of course, this door has the outside baked in, so I already pre-made some layers to solve this issue, but you gotta think through this stuff. So let me paste those in. When I need to align layers, I use 50% opacity and then just go like this with the arrow keys until it looks perfect. So that's what I want. And then press 0 to make it 100% opacity. That's the door front, that's the door back. Sometimes Egbert is in front, and sometimes Egbert is behind. Now, there's still some Egbert showing on the side of this wall, and this wall right now is a complete single asset, like this part of it and this part of it is different. And that makes sense. That's kind of how you draw rooms. So I'm going to make a trick asset, paste it at the very front, and this is completely cheating. Like, if I isolate this, all this is just this little section and this closet that I'm just assuming this area, which I copied from the layer's background and big weird shelf. I'm just assuming this is what I'll need to cover up Egbert at the times where they're behind all of this wall. So let me align this in the same method. Perfect. And now with the cheat layer, I can just toggle layers on and off. So without changing layers while I'm editing, because that's not how animating in Photoshop works, I can have panels like this, and then another frame like this. And if for some reason I wanted to move here, all I need to do is turn the cheat off. Okay, So now we have both of these. Let's start on animating the movement. Again, I want Egbert to slide from here and back here. So animating in space is a little tricky. So what I personally like to do, and maybe this isn't really the go-to method, but it's how I like doing it, is really just drawing a line on the ground and following it as I go. So I want this over here. Generally, I want the animation from, say, here moving all the way and then kind of back. So let me set up my first frame here, and I'm fine with all the propagate stuff. I'm gonna worry about that later. I have this first frame, which looks fine. And now it doesn't really make sense to just go through the door. So I'm going to have a nice little thing where the door slams open. So for that, I copy the layer and then through transform, I flip it horizontally and move it over here. And then I can hide this one. Again, I made a new layer, and that layer doesn't only exist in this second frame. It's here as well, and it's gonna cause issues if I don't deal with it. So after making something, I turn off propagate frame one, so I can just hide it from the, and maybe I don't even want to propagate frame one if you need something just for frame two. I hit it, and then I can come back and turn it on back wherever I need it to. So now that I have my first and second frame, I'm going to copy this one and move John all the way to the end of my arc, or almost all the way. And I'll drop in, let's say, 3 frames tween, so I have a nice sliding position. And now animate the layers themselves. So I can command click to quickly go to John's legs and hide them here, and use my very useful alternating running sprites. It might seem a little Sisyphic. If you want, you can also select odd layers and then together turn stuff on for them. That's also completely possible, but whatever works for you. Now, if I want to spice it up, let's get the lengths ready. Let's add an initial frame where John has still not run into frame. So I'm going to hide him and then move this frame to be the first one and make it 1 second long. And now for all these, I'm going to select them and make them 0.05 seconds. Again, these are a quick motion. They're just going to play one after the other. No need to focus on anything within them. If I want, let's quickly apply something we already learned. We can do some nice tick back here to really sell door slamming into position. And now what I want to do is duplicate the frame, and instead of this, use this nice little swoosy slide animation. Move John just by a teensy bit with the arrow keys. And an even teensier bit after that to really sell a sliding effect. And yep, this is a lot of eyeballing. I'm now selecting both sprites, both frames, and moving John even more. Trying to stay within the arc. Snap the door back into position. And instead of this process where I kind of animated frame by frame, I'm going to go back to setting up the next general keyframe. Where John is next to the door in this way. And now that I have these two, I can kind of understand how I tween between them. So I can literally do a 2 frame tween here, and you'll notice what happens because I change from the copy of the door that's open this way and the door that's closed the other way, they will tween with opacity. So instead I'll undo that, and in the tween menu, turn off opacity. And now the door slams close at just the last point without any tweening. I should control this myself, so I'm gonna select these two. I think the door should be closed by now. And this is stuff you should toy with a lot. You should export your GIF, see how it looks, see if things should open earlier, later, stuff like that. At the end of the slide, let's say the door actually still open, and here it slams shut. Let's give it a strong tick this way and a tiny tick that way. Again, using the double tick back effect to really sell a slamming. And I really like how this looks. We have this nice stretchy slide, and then a really quick snap back to this pose right here. Now, I want John to also hold up the door, and this is where having a plethora of arm sprites at the ready is really, really, really useful. I'm going to use this one, and once again, I'm going to make a very destructive change. I'm going to rotate it by 90 degrees. Because it's a perfect 90 degrees, I'm still a little scared, so I'll use nearest neighbor, so the pixels are preserved. This is still exactly how the pixels look, just rotated. But again, if I did a different layer, this looks different. This is an interpretation. This is not the same grid. This is not the same idea. It's an interpretation. So I'm careful to be with 90 degrees. I'm holding shift when I rotate. And I'm gonna move the arm. Let's see, just to make sure my transform wasn't too destructive. I think it's generally in the same spot. Yeah, okay. So I can select all of these layers and move the right arm this way. Now I see some artifacting on the layer itself. And again, changing the visual content, the literal grid of which pixels are painted what, is a destructive edit that affects all the different panels of animation. That doesn't get interpolated. That's just the fact of what this layer is for the entire GIF. So again, I'm selecting this, moving it until it looks perfect. Actually, I don't think it should be showing in this frame. It should start showing here, here, and here. The layer was already moving along because it's part of the group that I animated as John, and that's why I didn't need to reposition it for every single one. I think it's nighttime that I also hide the line on the ground that I'm using because I generally have my arc already set up. So using propagate frame 1, I reveal it and then hide it, and that hiding propagates through the entire animation. So now I can go back. Maybe even don't show the arm right until I'm next to the door. Yeah, I like that. Let's add a tick back frame of John going here, and I'm just jamming with my general idea. And this is the final one. Maybe it even moves the door a teensy bit. The fact that the black outline is both part of the door layer and part of the wall layer is nice because then I don't have weird gaps when I move the door. Just a cool byproduct. Okay, it looks pretty good. I'm gonna look at my frames. I'm not gonna play because the playback is a little buggy within Photoshop, but seems good. John's expression is not really what I'm looking for this energy, so I'm gonna select all the frames where John is visible. Not the first one, but you know, we make do. I'm gonna go to the face and I'm going to hide the standard John mouth and replace it with, let's say, mouth gridded. That feels right. So now, it didn't even show in that frame, but now for the entire animation, John is using this nicer effect. And I also think for these last few, maybe even when John is skidding at the end here, I'm selecting this entire range and I'm individually selecting the eyes, the pupils layer, and I'm gonna move it a teensy bit, select even a later range and move it even more. So now as this is happening, John is slowly moving his eyes in this direction, concerned about whatever's chasing him or something. Now that I have the tick frame, I can lengthen this to 3 seconds again because it's the end of the GIF. And I think to really sell the skidding at the end, I'm gonna let this one go on for double time, for 0.1 instead of 0.05. It's a little bit more focused, but it just feels like it'll sell the skidding a little more. And again, I haven't rendered or viewed the animation once. This is just kind of playing with the principles in my head, hoping I have a good idea. And you should jam with this. You should save your panel over and over, view it in an editor, view the actual GIF playback, and judge it again and again and again. And now I'm going to export it, once again, save for web. It should remember my settings from earlier with the pattern dithering limited to 128 colors. I can preview in browser. Yeah, looks pretty sweet. I like that it's kind of holding, and maybe it could have adjusted the distances a little more. I think oh, I'm just realizing I forgot to set up the slice because I already did this, so I knew what were the bounds of my animation. But it is important that you generally know where your camera starts and ends. So I knew that this is fine, that all my action happens here, because again, I already set this up when practicing. Yeah, it's important to learn because my movement had to end here, otherwise it'll look a little weird if it gets chopped off by the bottom of the panel. So now I set up the frame, I go back to export, save for web, and now when I preview in browser, I can open it in its own tab and it looks awesome. A really good panel. Maybe the eyes have moved a little too much over the entire thing. You don't really notice them moving during the skidding, but that's fine. It's just kind of a smooth thing that happens. There's small things that I could definitely do, but generally the punching of the door, the slamming of it, sells pretty well for me. And this is just simple stuff. I'm just toying with the animations I already had that I already drew, and this is really fairly easy stuff to do. I hope this tutorial will encourage more people to just jam out, really try simple things like make another panel where John bumps into the door to open it. And you only need to draw like an open version of this. You don't need to do all that much to think of fun little panels. Say you had this, you isolate it to its own layer, and you, I don't know, make like a big rumbly noise and just drop it out of frame. There's a lot of little ideas you have once you have everything set out into different panels. Once you have a lot of different mouths to work with that you can alternate, there's a lot of different grins, a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot to do. So just giving yourself those options, being familiar with what the canvas is allowing you to do, really, really fun once you get the hang of it. And you can crank out so many panels and they can look really, really good. It's a few simple principles. Get the animation moving quickly. Don't hold too long for small effects. Make it reset fast and just have fun with it. It's really simple and I really hope I can see some interesting stuff. The PSD for the Egbert Kitchen with all these extra cheat layers that I used is also going to be in the description. Make some stuff and please send it in the animation channel in the MSPFA Discord. It's really, really fun for me to see creative things made in sprite mode, and I hope this tutorial was good. Please feel free to ask me any questions you want, again, on the MSPFA Discord. Thank you. Thank you for watching.